Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to today's webinar, the second in our series of 3 webinars addressing different aspects of upgrading your JDE EnterpriseOne system. In the previous webinar, we spoke about the issues and questions you should consider when you're planning your upgrade. In today's webinar, we'll focus on the issues relating to executing your upgrade. And I'm glad to see we've got quite a lot of people who attended last week's session on the planning of your E1 upgrade and attending our session today. So welcome back. Now, my name is David Hunt, and I'm the Strategy Director here at DWS, an Oracle Gold Partner specialized in JDE EnterpriseOne. I'm joined today by my colleague Pierre Bodenstein. He's one of our Senior Solutions Architects, and he's got a wealth of experience of all things to do with JDE Edwards and has been involved in a good many JDE Edwards EnterpriseOne upgrades. So if you would like to raise any questions, please use the questions panel to the bottom right of your screen, and we will have time at the end of the presentation today to review your questions. And do make use of Pierre's experience, so do make sure you come up with some really good questions for him, because that's why I've got him on the call with us today. Now, if we look at the typical EnterpriseOne lifecycle, there tend to be 3 major phases. There's the initial implementation phase, the major upgrade phase, but then perhaps the realization that maybe staying code current might actually represent a more sensible approach than undertaking major upgrade projects every 5 to 10 years. Now, in this series of webinars, we'll be focusing on the middle ground here, upgrading your EnterpriseOne system. Now, most of you have already signed up for the whole series of this short series of 3, and that's great. But if you haven't, the details are on the screen now. Now, as I mentioned, the first one on planning your E1 upgrade was held last week, and the recording is now available on demand. And if you would like a link to the recording, just either use the Q&A facility to request that, or drop me an email and I will send you the link so you can view anything that you missed last week. Today is the second in the series, and there's one more to follow, which will happen after the Quest Collaborate event, and that will take place on April the 12th. Now, these are not intended to be deep dive technical sessions. The first 2 webinars will last about 30 minutes and introduce you to the key considerations for each topic. The third one on testing will include product demonstrations for both planning and executing your testing, and that one is a bit longer. That one will last 1 hour. All sessions include time for Q&A, so do make sure you raise some good questions for us. Now, when we spoke about planning your upgrade in the previous webinar, we explained how the DWS Dimension Analysis service can help to eliminate many of the risks involved in a major upgrade project by providing you with an accurate picture of how the ESU changes will impact your custom code and how we can identify which custom objects are no longer required. We are so confident in the accuracy of our analysis that we will fix the price and timescale of any upgrades that we undertake on your behalf. Our analysis and calculations are not based on finger-in-the-air estimates, but they are based on facts as we analyze your actual code. So you will have the results of an independent and evidence-based review. And if you contract DWS to carry out this analysis work, you're not tied to having to use DWS for your upgrade, though of course we hope you will see the benefits of using our expertise to help you with your important upgrade projects. So in today's webinar, we're going to be concentrating on the execution phase of your upgrade, with specific emphasis on the challenges facing the developers, project managers, and quality assurance. And then we'll then spend a few minutes on how DWS can help address each of these challenges. Now, before you can begin any upgrade, you need to know exactly what has changed in the latest release. Now, whilst Oracle does provide release documentation, it is not always completely accurate. It does, for example, list objects as having been changed when they have not actually been changed. This can result in additional and unnecessary work for your developers. More serious, though, is that the documentation can show some objects as not having been changed when in fact they have. This can have serious repercussions on your project when your custom code fails to execute correctly. thereby extending project timescales and causing frustration with your users. In our previous webinar last week on planning your upgrade, we spoke about how the DWS Dimension Analysis service provided the only accurate analysis of the true impact an upgrade will have on your custom code, as we actually scan the source code and do not rely on the documentation provided. But how do you then decide on what is the best upgrade approach to adopt? Do you take the new object and reapply the changes you made, or do you take your revised objects and apply Oracle's changes to your version? How do you actually make that decision? How do you know which is going to be the quicker way of doing things? So with that background, I'm now going to look at some of the challenges facing the developers in a bit more detail. And we'll review a number of challenges that developers are faced with during the upgrade, which generally equates to additional time and effort, and potentially risk. Now, as I've already mentioned in the previous webinar on planning the upgrade, we addressed how you can identify all mods to standard JDE objects and to copies of standard objects. This information needs to be available to your developers when actually carrying out the upgrade work itself. Turning our attention to obsolete objects. How do you avoid missing a custom object that references a standard JDE object that has become obsolete or no longer exists in the future release and becoming an issue during user acceptance testing? What about changes to the standard hooks? There may be a change in the parameters passed into a function call, which ultimately affects the results of using this function in custom code. Knowing about these changes and the potential impact during the retrofitting of an object again minimizes or even eliminates issues during user acceptance testing by enabling you to retrofit the object correctly the first time. You also need to think about custom indexes on standard tables. As an example, a custom index may have been added to the standard table. Now, for the sake of this example, we will call it index 5. In the future release, Oracle may have added a new index to the table, also called index 5, therefore causing a conflict. How can you check for these types of pitfalls so you can verify and retrofit the use of custom index correctly, and, in turn, ensure the consistent behavior of the custom code and the index? Unicode and best practice changes in C business functions. Now, if you're upgrading from a non-Unicode release, ensuring your C business functions meet Unicode standards is only partially covered by Oracle's toolset. Some of the changes will need to be made manually by a programmer. You also need to be thinking about obsolete APIs and custom client code. And similar to the calling of obsolete objects and business functions, APIs called from custom or modified business functions may have been changed by Oracle, or indeed replaced by a completely new API. Understanding what has changed, how it should be replaced, and by what, and where they are used in custom modifications will help for a successful upgrade. We now come on to client-only functions. Now, if you're upgrading from a Windows-based release to a web-based release, client-only business functions you may have developed may not automatically function correctly, and they often require re-engineering and redesign. Knowing where these function types exist before upgrade starts is critical to prevent overrunning. We're going to talk about table I/O mismatches. Now, an upgrade presents a good opportunity to review the existing code logic that may be causing issues in the current release. Issues such as mismatches between the indexes used by select and its following fetch, for example. These are issues that can cause testing problems if upgraded as is. And then version overrides. Of course, if you've used the DWS Dimension Analysis service that we spoke about in the previous webinar, we will already have identified these, thereby eliminating the surprise of finding out about them during user acceptance testing. We're now going to consider the upgrade challenges relating to the project manager. Now, the project manager needs to take into account right from the very beginning the requirements of the client's critical business processes, the dependencies of objects, and how to bundle objects together into smaller projects in order to meet defined deliverables and milestones. Being able to do this accurately will enable you to plan resources for testing and in turn deliver the upgrade in manageable bundles, which we talk about as an agile approach, rather than having to wait until the end of the development activity before performing all the testing, which is known as the waterfall approach. Now, it clearly will be helpful if the project manager can produce a detailed project plan, providing the visibility and accountability at an object level, enabling effective management of resources and tracking the progress of the project. The third component we need to consider relates to quality assurance. A very important question to ask at this stage is, how do your quality assurance people ensure that the code delivered by the developer has addressed all the challenges on this slide, which we've already spoken about? What tools are there that can help your QA people to provide your end users with the confidence that the upgrade has gone smoothly and they will experience few problems? Now, obviously, the key issues for the quality assurance officer is to minimize defects and maximize quality. Part of this is trying to ensure that as much as possible is done correctly the first time. Where any reworking is necessary, the QA function needs to track this activity and ensure the correct version is included in the uplifted system. You need to be sure that you have an accurate list of all modified code that is still in use to make sure that every object still needed is uplifted to the new release and nothing is overlooked. Of course, it would be helpful to have access to a knowledge base of issues such as unknown or missing columns and parameters, known obsolete and retired APIs, tables, and other issues that would have been identified by the Dimension Analyze extract, or gained from involvement in other customer upgrade projects. But how do you gain access to such useful information when it is not publicly available? Then, of course, there is the matter of testing, which we'll be covering in the next webinar on April the 12th. So how can DWS assist you with the execution phase of your upgrade? Well, at the heart of how we go about executing an upgrade is the DWS Professional Toolset. Dimension Professional, as it's more formally known, is a suite of applications that leverages data produced by the Dimension Analyze service that we spoke about in the previous webinar. It allows DWS to fully manage and fix the price of the modifications uplift component of the EnterpriseOne upgrade. And this comprises three key components: the developer tools, the project management tools, and the QA analyst tools. Now, DWS regularly works alongside the customer's own developers to deliver an upgrade. And if you were to engage DWS, we will provide you with full access to the Dimension Professional toolset that we use ourselves. And it's this Dimension Professional toolset that enables DWS to complete a fixed price and fixed timescale upgrade using the DWS Best Upgrade Approach functionality. And I'll come back to that in a few moments. The DWS provides developers, project managers, and the quality assurance team with role-based tools to assist with the upgrade. These tools are key elements of the DWS Dimension Professional toolset. Dimension Professional is a set of tools that we created to enable the project manager to create a development project that will be accurate, sequenced to the client's preference, and allow project bundles to be created with full integrity. These project bundles will be self-sufficient, allowing the client to start testing these bundles without having any dependencies at later intervals. The integrity is built in, and the dependencies are taken care of. Dimension Professional relies on the Dimension Analyze audit and estimate phases to be done beforehand. The project manager also has access to the lower, more detailed picture by having access to the same tools the developers use on a daily basis. This tool incorporates functionality that simplifies the upgrade effort for developers and allows them to access information that would not normally be evident to developers at face value. A step-by-step process is adhered to by the developers to allow them to identify every technical change that needs to be done, leaving no stone unturned. This enables the most accurate upgrade with full integrity. And after the developers have completed their work, this is followed by 2 technical QA processes, which ensure that the objects that are delivered to the client have effectively been addressed by 3 people. The result of this is that the defect levels that are found by clients using DWS Dimension Professional are the lowest in the industry. You can see on the slide that the Dimension Professional also manages and reports on all the other overlapping items that are critical for the success of your upgrade project, such as statistics and the ability to view net changes, enabling integrity. An audit trail of statuses that provides a history of events, enabling the tracking of deliverables. A central status update and time entry system which allows for tracking deliverables and actuals versus estimates at a detailed level. Now, a critical factor when things may change during the course of the project is having the ability to view dependencies between objects and how rescheduling the deliverable of an object or a group of objects could have a ripple effect. Now, this allows for adjusting the deliverables and sequencing them accordingly to ensure the integrity is maintained and to avoid wasting time. We've also built our own knowledge base containing a wealth of data and other useful information based on our extensive upgrade experience and our own testing of JDE versions. Much of this proprietary data has proven again and again to be most valuable in identifying and avoiding potential problems that would otherwise cause project overruns or unnecessary development effort. Then, of course, there's the matter of testing, which will be covered in the next webinar. The cherry on top is having the ability to identify what we call the best upgrade approach. Now, I've mentioned the best upgrade approach a couple of times now, and when we're speaking about this, what we're referring to is the best way to upgrade each modified object individually. Is it better, for example, to take the new and updated Oracle object and reapply your modifications, or is it better to use your modified object as the starting point and apply Oracle's changes to your modified objects? Which is going to require the least amount of effort? And how do you know which is the best upgrade approach? Do you even know if your modified object is actually affected by the new release from Oracle? As an example, a standard JDE object may only have, say, 2 lines of code added to it in the new release. However, the custom modifications applied may span 100 lines or more. The ability to see this enables the best upgrade, or the best upgrade approach to be identified in retrofitting an object and in turn saving time. Based on the data provided via the DWS Analyze service, Dimension Professional advises you on which will actually be the best upgrade approach for each and every object. So in summary, the DWS Dimension Professional tools enable us to plan the uplift workload in the most optimal sequence, to meet tight delivery timescales on time, and to avoid nasty surprises during the execution phase of the upgrade. And we enable the customer to promote bundles from DV to PY to PD with no issues, as Dimension Professional understands all the dependencies between the objects. So our bundles will promote and build without any build issues, which could otherwise be a significant problem and time waster on many upgrade projects. So we believe that, in a nutshell, the tools that we provide with our Dimension Professional toolset really are pure gold. And speaking from our own extensive experience, makes the upgrading and retrofitting of objects much, much easier. It also provides a foundation for a focused and streamlined approach, all contributing to saving time and effort and delivering a standardized methodology. And this enables us to deliver bundles of objects that have the lowest defect levels in the industry, thereby reducing rework and increasing throughput. As you'll hear in a moment when we review a customer case study, we even deliver upgrades with 0 defects, something that is absolutely unheard of in the software industry. And when used in conjunction with the DWS Dimension Analysis planning service, we're able to deliver the fixed price, fixed timescale upgrades using the best upgrade approach. Now, when we had the webinar last week looking at planning, we went through a number of customer case studies where we showed just how much time and effort the DWS Dimension Analysis service can save you when you're planning your upgrade. We're now going to look at the customer experience of one particular customer that we got involved in. Now, the story I'm about to introduce to you is a real-life customer case study, but the client has asked us to keep the name of the company anonymous. The case study we're talking about relates to an upgrade from XE Service Pack 23 to E1 9.1 and has 2 major points of interest. Firstly, the technical upgrade took fewer than 100 days and it was completed with 0 defects. Now, that was particularly interesting because this project had a number of pretty key challenges. I'm just going to go through some of the key challenges that we faced on this project. First of all, they had a report design aid issue. Now, this was a major problem that meant that no UBEs could be designed and worked on at the client site. Packages that were built were not working, and these could not be verified by doing analysis of the UBEs, as the UBEs could not be opened in design mode because of the RDA issue, the report design aid issue. Now, one of the challenges that had to be dealt with was new objects being requested from the client and then still ensuring that the existing delivery schedule was not impacted by those changes. Some of the defects that were encountered had to be addressed, also taking cognizance of the delivery schedule and ensuring again that there was no impact on the timetable. Some of the issues that were picked up were actually due to bugs in EnterpriseOne itself. Minimizing downtime was key. Now, it's fortunate that the upgrade was actually done on DWS's servers because we had no downtime there. At the client, if we'd been reliant on their servers, we would certainly have encountered downtime due to the major UBE issue that I've already mentioned. And the upgrade schedule was very aggressive, and the client was very pleased that DWS kept to a very tight delivery schedule. They also used the delivery schedule as a means to set up the testing and training schedule for the client's staff. Now, the key benefits the customer realized in the planning phase from using our Dimension Analysis service was a massive reduction in its modified footprint, down by a massive 70%. This enabled DWS to reduce the upgrade effort down by 175 days to just 98 days. In the execution phase, despite all the challenges posed by this project, using our Dimension Professional toolset enabled DWS to deliver the technical upgrade with 0 defects and on schedule and within budget. Now, when we carried out a post-upgrade review with the customer, despite that the project was an overwhelming success for the client, there were still some challenges. The biggest difficulty the customer experienced was on the testing process, which still posed a significant effort. Now, in research that DWS carried out amongst more than 100 JDWS EnterpriseOne customers, testing was actually cited as the biggest hurdle to adopting a code current policy. And in our next webinar in this series, we will be looking at major recent developments that can significantly improve your test planning and test management. So to summarize, in the first webinar in this series, we showed how the DWS Dimension Analysis service is used in the planning phase to produce extremely accurate forecast of the upgrade effort required. And it can also reduce your modified footprint by up to 75%, thereby reducing your upgrade effort and costs. In today's second webinar, we've addressed the execution of your upgrade and explained how you can deliver your upgrades on time, in budget, and with minimal defects by using the DWS Dimension Professional service. In the final webinar in this series, we will address the challenges of planning the testing of your upgrade and show how you can minimize your testing effort by focusing on just what needs testing. We'll also show you how you can automate your testing without the need for expensive technical specialists. Now here's a reminder of the dates of the webinars in this series, April the 12th being the date of the final webinar that we're running. And if you want to register for that, you can go to the events page on the DWS Consultants website. And if you'd like to have a link, as I mentioned before, to the recording of last week's webinar on planning your upgrade, then either request it using the questions facility or send me an email after today's session and I will send you that link. Now, 9.2 is available, so there is no better time than to actually get up to date, get current, and then to stay current by adopting a code current policy. So with that, we have a few minutes left to be able to address any questions that people have. So if you haven't typed in any questions yet, then now is your opportunity to start doing so. I'll just take a look at the questions that are coming through so far. Yeah, Pierre, we've got a couple of questions coming through. The first one relates to, can the client developers have access to Dimension Professional?
Hi, Dave. Yeah, of course they can. On the proviso that DWS has at least half of the upgrade effort, it's actually encouraged for the customers to follow the Dimension Professional process. It ensures that the work's done with integrity and you know that the QA is done correctly.
Okay, and closely linked into that, a number of people think that they would like to do the upgrades themselves or to use existing service companies with whom they already have a relationship, and that relates to the upgrade times that we quote to the clients. Are they likely to be able to achieve that themselves?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, hey. So in our upgrade experience, we found that the client developers might not necessarily be able to match the times quoted because they might not be at the same level as our developers and our QA staff. So the main reason for this is that our developers have worked on Dimension Professional for a number of years on a number of upgrades, throughout all these different upgrade projects. So in addition to this, each of them might have an excess of 10 years solid JDE experience, and many of them have even more than 15 years. So we've got quite a bit of horsepower in the team.
Okay, that's great. We have one here asking right regarding a very risky question. To try and save time, could the client developers do the upgrade without performing full QA? As an ex-developer myself, I would not recommend that. What are your views on that, Pierre?
Yeah, look, you think you're saving time, but it might not actually land up like that. So as a client, you're entitled to do the upgrade as you see fit, but we would strongly recommend that you do follow the QA approach. And like you were saying just now, that we follow that 2 levels. So it's 2 different independent QA consultants with lots of years that actually validate the code independently from the upgrade. So this leads to consistently reliable and low defects. So it's your call, but it might cost you in the end.
Someone who's done a lot of development and QA work myself in the past, I would not recommend that at all. There's some pretty good research carried out by people like Carnegie Mellon University that if you find a problem once things have gone into production, then it costs 50 times more to fix it than if you actually sort it out before you go into production. So I would never ever recommend cutting out the QA process. It is false economy, and that you're exposing the company to some quite significant risks there. Now, that just about brings us to the end of our time together. If you think of any other questions that you think of just after you leave, just drop me an email and I'll make sure that somebody gets back to you with a response very, very quickly. I've now got my contact details up on the screen. So if you want to send me an email, or if you just like to follow DWS on social media, all of the relative links are there. I'd say we've got the final webinar in this series on April the 12th, where we're looking at all things to do with testing, and we'll be including demonstrations of our testing solutions in that. So I do hope you'll be able to join us for that. Now, when you leave the session today, you will be directed to a very short feedback questionnaire. I do ask everybody to please complete that. It will only take you 1 minute, but it does help us to make sure that we maintain the quality that we're looking for with these webinars. So with that, I'd like to thank you all very much. I hope you found that very worthwhile. Thank you for attending. I look forward to speaking to you again in a future webinar. Goodbye.